Okay, so I think we are now live, so I'll give it a minute. I know there's a little bit of a delay, so we'll just wait and see, and give people a moment to log on and join us. There we go. We've got some people joining us. Thank you so much for coming today. Hello and welcome to another Inner Wings event. So today's event is called Learning to be Confident After COVID, and I am joined today by Johanna Barrett. So Johanna is a teacher with over 31 years of experience. She was previously head of English and the lead practitioner for teaching and learning. She's lectured in higher education, trained future teachers, and is now an educational consultant and freelance tutor. I couldn't think of anyone better to speak to about this topic today, and she also happens to be my mum. So thank you so much for joining us today, Johanna.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
So in today's session, you'll hear expert advice and insight on how to build confidence, how you can use that for yourself and also for your children. We'll be discussing things like anxiety, the importance of collaborative working, and the need for a growth mindset, especially after COVID and the year that everybody has had. So Inner Wings, I'll give you a bit of a background about Inner Wings. So Inner Wings is a confidence building foundation. We work to build confidence in children everywhere. We do that through programs for schools, workshops, children's books, football, ambassador programs, and so much more. And we do have a particular focus on confidence in girls. So there is visibly a confidence crisis in girls. So we do make an effort to focus on the things that girls need. But we know that COVID has affected everyone and will have exacerbated the issues that people have with confidence. So programs like ours are absolutely vital at this time, and we want to support children in their confidence as they return to school. So we want our programs to be the most effective that they can be. So over the last few weeks, we've been consulting with experts in education to understand the situation in schools, how lockdown has affected confidence, and what Inner Wings can do to help. So we've spoken to teachers, head teachers, educational psychologists, and one of the people that we spoke to was Johanna. And we're thrilled to have you with us today to have this discussion and for all of you to learn something new and figure out how you can help yourself and children with their confidence. We'll also be asking questions at the end, so please submit them in the chat throughout the talk. So, the first takeaway that we found from the research that we had been conducting with teachers is, and people that work in education, is anxiety. Anxiety in children post-lockdown has absolutely skyrocketed. It's a massively prevalent issue with all of the teachers and schools that I spoke to. So Johanna, where can you see that increased anxiety having come from in children?
Well, obviously teachers have had some training on this, and the key thing seems to be that obviously it's a complete loss of normal routine, all the things that normally help all of us to feel secure and to feel safe emotionally, physically, mentally. And it's been a massive transition, a series of transitions actually, that children have had to deal with. So it's not surprising that we're seeing increased anxiety, in fact. And short bursts of anxiety are absolutely fine. They're the ones that help us to deal with the immediate dangers. And children have generally been quite good at being able to take on those strategies, such as the hand washing, the social distancing. And this is a really positive sign of anxiety. I think the kinds of anxiety we need to be more worried about are the ones that are showing prolonged duration, really, the sorts of things of avoiding the kinds of activities that they used to enjoy, that they found fun. That would be the big warning sign that actually anxiety is now in that spectrum, further along it, in an undesirable place, actually. And that's the sort of thing that we need as educators and as parents to be aware of and to be watchful for.
Absolutely. So what are some of the things that teachers and parents can do to boost confidence in their children and move them away from anxiety?
I think, as with everything, it's about honest and open conversations with children, trying to be observant of any signs of the anxiety, obviously, first of all, but secondly, really openly addressing their concerns. And they do have genuine concerns. I mean, the program that you are developing, particularly, there was a Head Start research program in 2017. They did their first annual survey, and they saw that the biggest source of anxiety in that survey at that time, and that was in 2017, between 8 and 11-year-olds, was in fact concern about their academic or indeed their athletic performance. And that probably compared to their peers. And I don't doubt that that probably is still very much a factor.
And exacerbated now by COVID. It will probably be a lot worse now. Fantastic. Yeah. So the open and honest conversation. So with things like self-care, the usual things, that's something that adults can use as well in their life. So not just for children. So yeah, our programs, as you said, are massively focused on building confidence and helping children to communicate their emotions and understand how they feel. And yeah, absolutely, that's something we're definitely focused on. So in our Finding Your Superpower mini series, so that's on YouTube that you can watch now. That was a massive part of it, was sort of getting in touch with your emotions and being able to communicate them. Brilliant. So one of the second thing that came out of the research that we did with educators was the lack of collaborative working that has been caused by lockdown and the impact of losing that vital skill. Obviously, they've been at home and isolated. So how important is collaborative working to children's confidence and to their future success?
Hugely, absolutely hugely crucial. Just to pick up on something from our point earlier, it's very important that we don't just attempt to reassure children, whether that's in any context. It's really important that that open and honest conversation, we stick to the facts. We present the facts to them as we know them, but maintaining a hopeful outlook. I just wanted to add that because I think that's really important, because the instinct of a parent or into teachers sometimes might be just to reassure, say it's all going to be okay. Well, that doesn't really help if you're feeling anxious. You want some concrete specifics and that acknowledgement of your feeling. But coming back to the collaborative learning, Siobhán, there's research again from the Education Endowment Foundation from 2018. They did an extensive review of all the kinds of strategies that are effective in teaching and learning. And when they looked at collaborative learning and looked at the extensive research on that, they found that on average for a child, being successfully engaged in collaborative learning could add at least 5 months worth of academic progress.
Wow, it makes such a difference.
A huge difference. And there's all sorts of reasons why that works and why, in my experience, that has worked. It gives the child amongst their peers a sense of connectedness, which we know is vital for mental health, but also a sense of being valued. And that's really important. We can't expect also children to naturally have these collaborative learning skills. And that's why it's particularly saddening that so many children have been deprived of the chance to be in those kinds of contexts at the moment. But we can model those and we can teach those and teach children also to be able to agree and disagree constructively and in a respectful way. And these are the kinds of soft skills, if you like, that are actually essential life skills. So yes, I couldn't agree more. Collaborative learning and the feeling of the loss of that.
Absolutely. That's something, with Inner Wings, the focus on team building and collaboration is so key to confidence, because when you're in those situations with your peers and you feel comfortable to try new things because you're surrounded by your friends, or Or it pushes the other way. You're in a new group of people and you need to put yourself out there. And that's a massive opportunity to build confidence. So if children get involved with inner wings, it is most likely going to be outside of their friendship group in school or something like that. It might be outside with our football or our ambassador program. It's going to be outside of their usual peer group, and they're going to put themselves out there, and that's a really, really key skill. So how do you think collaborative working affects confidence in a classroom situation? Perhaps do children show their confidence more? Can you visibly see them be more confident when they're working collaboratively?
Absolutely. You can often see people, students will often have quite clear ideas about what they think the capacities or talents of particular individuals within their group are. And part of what I've enjoyed as a teacher over the years is being able to structure opportunities for them to feed back and support one another in learning situations. And when you do that and you give somebody who normally would be described possibly as quite quiet, but you do it in safe context, so in little small groups, not whole class initially, where, that can be quite daunting. But in a small group context, and where you sort of dip around as a teacher and you come in and you listen into the conversations, and then you offer them the chance to feed back an idea, and suddenly the child that maybe doesn't necessarily rate themselves too much or their ideas is hearing one of their group feed back their idea to the whole class, and you can just see them grow 10 foot. It's a wonderful moment to see, oh, people think my ideas are worth listening to. And I think it's really important that obviously teachers need experience and training in how to set up these environments, but there is almost nothing more worthwhile than seeing that, and that growth in confidence. And you see that then in how they then approach the next opportunity and the next time.
Exactly. They've developed that skill and they can then hone it. That's something in our programs is we want to be facilitators. We want to give them the opportunities and them to take autonomy over their confidence building. So that's obviously what teachers can do in a classroom. But if you have any suggestions of what parents can do outside of school to really reinstate collaborative working.
Well, I agree with you that participation in a program like yours, where they are possibly mixing with a group of individuals that they wouldn't normally, I would say anything that takes them that little bit out of their normal support networks. So I sometimes feel it's very hard for children if they're the only places where they experience themselves and build connection are in their family and then within school, because then that just gives them two places in which to get a sense of perspective about themselves and who they are. And when something goes wrong, however minor, in one of those contexts, they've only got one other to compare or contrast it to. So the child being able to be in a third context, be it the local gardening club, be it a writing group, be it an online group, whatever it is, something that fosters their sense of being a person in another group, where they can also have other adult role models, is going to be crucial to their confidence.
And like you said, adult role models are, especially with social media around at the moment, something that they can aspire to, that is in their environment and they can engage with and learn from. Absolutely, that's 100% something that is so important to confidence. So the last takeaway that we're going to talk about from the research is one that I think post-COVID, post-lockdown is absolutely integral. The education system at the moment, as we know it, has a massive emphasis on results, a results at all costs culture. One of the teachers that I spoke to called it that, and I thought that was a brilliant phrase, because it is how it feels as a student. There's all the focus on ability. So I know something that we've spoken about when we were doing the research together is the need to move from a fixed ability mindset to a growth mindset or a currently achieving mindset. Could you tell us a bit more about what you mean by that?
Oh, where to begin? There's so much I want to say about this. I almost feel that few things could be more detrimental to a child's self-confidence and self-belief and self-esteem than being labelled. Whether that is being labelled as having a strong, high ability, what does that even mean? Or low ability? The term ability gets flung around all the time in all sorts of settings. And it's really got to be about attainment and your current attainment. All the neuroscience, all the research about the brain and its infinite malleability tells us that it is a nonsense to regard any kind of ability as fixed or any intelligence as fixed. Actually, there's an enormous amount that the brain can do and that we as educators and parents can do to enable children to focus on where they are at this particular moment now. This is how I am in this particular context now, and to focus on that. So one of the strategies, for example, I would use in the classroom is at the start of a topic, for example, a scaling model. So here we are, here's a scale, let's draw it in our exercise books, 1 to 10. Never start at 0 because we don't want anybody to think of themselves as a 0. So 1 to 10. How do I feel about my learning in this particular area at this point? And you would expect, of course, that most people would score themselves at a 1 or a 2 or a 3, possibly, depending on how much knowledge they have of that particular topic. And that's great, but it's not enough to just put a little number on it. Encouraging reflection is so key here. Okay, why am I putting myself at this number? Why am I saying that in my understanding of Romeo and Juliet, for example, I would put myself at a 2? I need to get that down on paper so I can explain to myself why I have this feeling. And it's part of this emotional literacy as well as learning in general. And then midway through a topic, let's score ourselves again. And at the end, let's score ourselves now. And again, that reflection. And you have they have there in front of them concrete evidence of their progress, which immediately helps them to see that they can be more confident, that they've learnt more. But also they're seeing that learning itself progresses. It is not static. Ability is not static.
Absolutely. And celebrating when you've come even just a little bit further, so in our Finding Your Superpower program, we had a whole week just on celebrating. And I think that's massively part of the growth mindset is, acknowledging that you're not always, you're not going to be there right now, but you will get there eventually, and celebrating yourself on the way, even if, you're not the best, or you don't have to be the best. And that's something that I think, especially after COVID and, the research that we've been doing with teachers is so important to have that knowledge. So we don't go into schools doing programs that it reinforce that. We want to, take that back a few steps and say, actually, the small things that you're achieving are just as valuable and just as important. So I'm trying to think. In terms of, I'm sorry, I've lost my train of thought then. That's something that we're trying to do at Inner Wings, and the research that you have given and the insight that you have given has been so valuable. And I think we can definitely see that the research that you guys have been giving us and all of you teachers have been giving us is going to make Inner Wings programs the best that they can be. So I think we can probably tie it up there in terms of looking at those questions and just see if anyone's put any questions in the chat. But we had some submitted before, so let me just have a little look. All good. So we had a couple questions submitted before, which if you're okay to answer, that would be really, really helpful. So the first one was, my child isn't engaging in their learning in a subject that they're not that confident in. What can I do as a parent to motivate them and engage them?
Oof. Okay. first of all, back to the open and honest conversation. So what is it precisely that you're not enjoying about this particular subject? Sometimes just even having the chance to vent or explain their feelings is really valuable. And so having paid attention to that, it's always worth trying to focus on something positive. So what is it within? There must be something that you like, or is there nothing? There must be something you feel you're good at within this. And you might get a flat no, and it doesn't interest me. Okay, so I think your next port of call, obviously, it's the clear communication with your child's teacher. Raise the issue. Just say you're a little bit concerned. And a three-way conversation in this is often really valuable as well. And just discuss what within, and the teacher will be able to say, well, actually, I can understand why they feel they're not very good at this, because we know that if we feel that we are good at something or successful or experiencing some success in something, we feel more confident, we feel we enjoy it more, and it's a circle, if you like. So finding that thing alongside the teacher that child actually has got a capacity for currently, because there will be something, there always will be.
Yeah.
I think would be a small step. And as you said earlier, it's those small steps of celebrating the success that they are having. So, well, actually, I know you think you're not terribly successful at this, but actually the other day in class, I noticed that you did this. And, oh, did I? Oh, yes, you did. And you can do more of that. So again, it's that three-way communication is going to be vital, I think.
Brilliant. And I think we've got time for one more question. Is a parent ask, how significant is the loss of learning going to be on children's futures? Obviously, I think there's a lot of anxiety from parents as well about what the future for their children who have been in school during this, how it's going to be affected.
Well, certainly I took a few calls in a pastoral role, talking to parents who were concerned that their children weren't engaging, for example, with the online learning, and what was going to be the longer term impact of this. And I said, yes, there is a loss of learning, but learning is not linear and learning is not all academic. Let's first of all realise that there's all kinds of learning that could have been going on at home. There have been some positives. Some children have actually said to me they've enjoyed lockdown because they got more time with their family and doing different kinds of activities. So actually, let's keep a balanced view. And the other thing is it amounted, I think, to something like 1/57th of a child's learning across their whole school career.
Oh, okay. So quite small then.
And yes, there will be ground to make up, but learning is not necessarily linear. And there'll be other skills that children will be now bringing to these contexts. And teachers will know what the priorities are and what the specific things that your child needs to focus on are. And that's, again, contact the teacher and ask, well, what are the top 2 or 3 things that we really need to focus on? Because let's be gentle with them.
Absolutely.
And
They've had an incredibly hard year. Yeah.
exactly that. Exactly. It's been a traumatic time for everybody, on one level or another. So let's recognise that.
And that's why, the things that you've been talking about today are so helpful, regardless of if you have a child or a teacher or a parent. This is something, these things you can take for yourself and adapt to your own life, a growth mindset, making sure that you get involved in team activities. These are things that everybody can use. Thank you so much for your time today. That's all we have time for, but I'm sure viewers at home and anyone watching, Johanna, your insight has been invaluable, and I hope that whether you are a parent, a teacher, or anybody watching, you feel that you can take something useful from today's session. So whether that's now that you feel better equipped to manage your anxiety, your child's anxiety, maybe you have a better understanding of the emotional and academic benefits of working collaboratively, or maybe you just learned something new today. That's good too. So it's been a really fantastic discussion that will make such a difference to our programs and to people with children and themselves. So Thank you so much for taking the time to share your experience. We have talked about a lot of different resources today. So in the description of this video, if you're interested in the Finding Your Superpower program that we're developing for schools, so it will be a building on the mini series that we did, which is on our YouTube channel. We're developing that to be delivered in schools. If you'd like to hear more about that and keep updated, you can sign up for updates. That's in the description. There's also a link to the previous mini series, that's in the description as well, and also our mailing list. And that also gives you the opportunity to join our Slack channel. That's with our growing community of volunteers. So be sure to join that as well. And of course, follow us on social media, which is at innerwings_org. The live will be available to watch forever. So if you want to come back and watch it at another time or share it with people, that's amazing. That's there for you. So thank you again, Johanna, for your time. And thank you for everyone who has tuned in to watch. I hope you found it helpful, and we'll see you at our next event. Amazing. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.